Welcome back to my channel. So I want to share with you all some palettes that are in my collection that I want to use, some old, some new. So I decided to start this on my channel that way I can pull out palettes. I may or may not use them within a week or so, but I'm definitely going to leave this basket out for maybe about a week or two. It just depends on how I rotate my palettes out. But I definitely wanted to share with you all what I wanted to start was doing a video with like this is my basket and what palettes I want to share with you all, what I want to use over the next couple of weeks. At least dive into most of them. But this is the basket. So let's go through these babies and see what I picked out. So let me turn it around so I can see what's in here. Again, sorry for all the noise. For starters, let's start out with what's at the top of this basket. I want to continue to play in my friend Cation Desi and Katie palette. This used to be one of my favorite palettes to use. This came out a couple of years ago. A lot of these palettes are older, and some of these palettes are pretty much older in my collection. But this is the packaging, and it is so pretty. The packaging is really pretty. These are the colors in the eyeshadow palette. Trying to get this reflective piece out. But I used to love to use this palette. You can see I dug in a couple of colors a couple of times. This is a nice palette. The formula is really good in this palette. So I pulled this one out to play with a little bit more. The next palette I pulled out is another oldie but goodie type shadow, and this is the Kat Von D's Shade and Light eye palette. This is what the packaging looks like, and this is the actual palette on the inside. And I've used a couple of shades in here before. I haven't used the entire palette before, but I've used this shade here. This was really pretty on the eyes. And then I used this shade down here at the bottom. Was really pretty on my eyes. Now, I haven't used any of the other shades, but I definitely want to dig into more of these shimmers because I really do like these shimmers. Let's swatch a couple. I should have swatched some from the other palette. See, that's a pretty bronzy type shimmer shade. Let's try this white one here. This is what it looks like on the back of my hand. That is pretty. So I can't wait to dig back into some of these older palettes that I have not used like in a very long time. So I'm excited about these types of videos to pull out stuff I have not used or have not used in a while. Because a lot of them I probably hadn't even touched. I've just owned them for so long that I'm just wanting to pull them out so that I can get some use out of them. And I'm just trying to grab a makeup wipe because of these swatches I'm doing. So let's wipe that off. Now what I'm going to do is go back into this Desi and Katie palette and just swatch one or two shades for you. Now I've used this shade before. I've used this shade before. I've used the purple and most of the matte. I have not used the green shade, and I think I used this one in my outer V when I did use it. So I want to swatch the green shade. It's so pretty. It's like a, I can't even describe this green, limey honey green type color. And this is what it looks like on the back. And they are still in great shape. The formula still appears to be like smooth and buttery, that I can use them without any issues. Let's swatch the purple. It's still buttery. It's like a purplish bluish. Let's swatch it here. That is a pretty color. I'm glad I pulled this palette back out. Because like I said, this used to be one of my like favorite palettes. So I definitely have to dig back into those. Mattes are really good in that palette, you know, as well. So my next palette I pulled out. Now I probably won't do swatches in every one of my palettes just to save a little bit of time. Kind of just skim through them. My next palette is this Beauty Bakery Better Not Bitter palette. Now this, I used to use this like a lot. This is a highlight and contouring palette. And I know it doesn't look like I've used it, but I've dug into. I used to use Deja Brew a whole lot to contour with. And I think I've used Antidepresso on my lid one time. But the other two I have not used, so I'm definitely going to be digging into this palette. Well, at least I want to get some use out of it with these shadows, because Beauty Bakery has some nice formula in this palette. I do like it. Now the next item I pulled out, I actually received it in one of my boxy charms and I've never used it. And it's the Beauty Bakeries Breakfast in Bed eyeshadow palette. I don't know why I have not used it. These are some large pan sizes on here too. Nice color scheme. This is what it looks like, and I do plan on definitely diving into this palette because I've never used it. I can be inspired by some of these shades in here because I love my mauves, and then I do love some cool tone shadows, but I can see myself using this row here. And I do like this tone in the middle. It's like a smoked out blackish, grayish, cool tone black, if I'm saying it right. But I can see myself using this palette. I definitely want to dive into this one as well. My next palette is the Violet Voss Pro Shadow Palette in hashtag. Now, I've used this one a couple of times when I first received it. This is what the packaging looks like. And I used to use this one a little bit too, quite a bit. This is what the palette looks like on the inside. I've used this shade here quite a bit. I use that shade quite a bit, and I've used this shade a couple of times. But I used to use this palette a lot. And Violet Voss has some great formulas as well. So if you have not tried Violet Voss, I would recommend that you do so. You know, they can be on a kind of expensive price point, but sometimes they have sales and stuff. So a lot of my items I've purchased are through a lot of sales, like Christmas, Memorial Day, 4th of July, whenever they have sales. A lot of my stuff I have not paid full price for. That's just an FYI. The next shadow palette shadow, but I've never ever touched this, is the Cream Shop So Shady Moonlit, because I do like purples too. And this is what the palette looks like. I'm not sure how their formula works. So this may be the first palette I use to do a look with, to see how the actual shadows perform. So I think I'm going to put this one on the very top to see what I can come up with. I'm going to put that one to the side. The next palette I took out is the Makeup Shack Contour Palette. This is a large contour palette. Now, I love Makeup Shack eye brushes, but I've never used their eyeshadows. And I do have a number of their eyeshadow palettes. I didn't put any in my basket this go round. But if I could remember, I'll definitely put some in my next basket. But this is what the contour palette looks like. And I think it's back in stock because it's normally out of stock a whole lot. And I believe it's around $18, if I'm not mistaken. But this is what it looks like. Now, I should have been pulled this out, not only for contouring, but transition shades. Because y'all know I'm forever looking for a transition shade right below my brow area. And this top row would definitely do that. So I'm glad I went through my stash to do that. And all these other shades can be used as outer V shades, crease shades, if you want to deepen up looks. So this is an all-time palette that you can use for a number of things. So I'm glad I pulled this palette out. The next palette I pulled out is my Pat McGrath, the Sublime Bronze Ambition, the smaller palette. Now, I've used this like a good bit. This is what the palette looks like. I'm not sure if they even still sell this palette, but this is a smaller version of one of the larger palettes. But these are what the shades look like. Beautiful formula, performs great. I've used this shade a lot, and most of my shades I use this one. I just need to kind of dig into the other shadows a little bit more. But this is a great palette, like a great everyday palette, you know, to be honest with you. So I pulled that one back out. Like when I'm going to work, this is like the perfect palette. The next eyeshadow palette I pulled out is this humongous Too Faced Then and Now eyeshadow palette. This is what the packaging, the box looked like. I've used this a couple of times, you know, as well. This one came out in 2018, where they were sharing with us the formula and colors from 1998, I'm assuming, when they first came out, which is this column here. And then this side is the 2018 formula in shades. I've used this maybe twice. I know it wasn't more than 3 or 4 times, but the formula on this, it was pretty good to me. I've seen what some people liked it, some people did not, but I actually didn't have any issues with the two times I used it. And I used the purple shadows. I think I used this set going across here. So I only did like 2 shadow eye looks with this, and they were really pretty. I like the way they performed. So I'm glad I took this one back out of my stash. And this is what the outside packaging looks like. And it just says Too Faced. This is the, like I said, the Then and Now palette. So a lot of palettes that I'm probably pulling out, most of them are probably like limited edition. But I still want to play in them. So the next 2 palettes I have are the 2 Morphe 9-pan palettes. Now I have pretty much all of the 9-pan palettes, but these 2 I actually pulled out because I really want to use this Melon palette. And this is like a beautiful pinkish green red. It just, colors just thrown in a palette. But I do like the colors in here. They may not go together, but I think I can try to come up with something. Well, at least I'm going to try. But I do like this middle row going across. That row inspired me. And I do want to do a look using this palette. It may not be particularly these shades, but that row actually inspired me to buy this palette. The next one I pulled out is the 9R Metal Bronze by Morphe, which is, this is an everyday eyeshadow palette. This is one beautiful, beautiful palette with the color scheme. Taupey, cool tone, everyday, not over the top, dramatic, just simple, soft glam eyeshadow palettes you can use like every day. So that's why I pulled that one out. And I pulled out both of my Patricia Brights by Revolution. And these are the 2 palettes. I've never, ever dug in either one of these palettes. I don't know why, but I told y'all I love eyeshadow palettes, and a lot of them I probably hadn't even touched, which is embarrassing. But that's what my goal now is, to pull out stuff. That's why I have this basket over here. This is what the color scheme looks like for the Rich in Life eyeshadow palette. This is beautiful. Now, one thing about it, Revolution can be hit or miss, but for the most part, I haven't had any issues with any, because I build up my shadows. I like to lightly build them until my liking, so I don't just go in with a bunch and pack it and then hope it blends. So that's what I do, and it kind of works for me. And I know everyone have different perspectives on different eyeshadow palettes, but like I said, they are hit or miss. But I start with a softer hand to see what I can come up with and kind of build up. But this is the color scheme. I love this green color. I think that'll pair well with this green. You have those. So like I said, I'm super excited about digging out these palettes to use. The next one is the Rich in Color, and this is the shadows in this one. Really beautiful. I didn't even mention the mirror. Look at the mirror. It's like super big. I'm sorry, I don't want to blind you all, but I just look at that mirror on that palette, and it's like really clear. That's just had nothing to do with this palette, but okay, back to the video. But this is a more colorful palette, which I have been really digging into color lately, and I've been loving my colorful looks. So I'm definitely gonna, dig into this palette here. I really like it. Okay, we're almost done. A couple of more palettes to go. Okay, so the next couple of palettes I pulled out are these 3 palettes from Cara Beauty, which are these 3. I got them from TJ Maxx for, I think, $3.99, I believe. No more than $4.99. And this is the one with you. A nice everyday peachy, bronzy type palette, which I'm looking forward to using. And the Wildflower, which is more on a coppery peachy tone eyeshadows. And I love these tones. I can wear these tones every day. And then the Daydream, which is on a greenish type color scheme. And I like greens and blues and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to using this one as well. Now I went and pulled out an oldie but goodie, which is the Brown Sugar Caruche in Color Pop. This palette here, I used this a couple of times. I do like the color scheme. This was a great palette, great formula. I had no issues when I did use it. So that's why I pulled this one back out as well. And I have two Profusion palettes that I want to continue to dive into, which are these two, the Cyanos palette and the Chocolates palette. The Cyanos is like the perfect everyday glam, soft glam, intense glam, whatever you want to do. This palette has great formula in this palette. I used it the other day. I did a 2-look eyeshadow tutorial. If you're interested in seeing how this shadow performed, it really performed really well. I've used it like so much. I love that palette by Profusion. If you haven't tried Profusion out, I think you should. If it's only one palette to kind of see if you like the formula, but I love Profusion. They are hit or miss as well, but I do like their formula and their shadows. The next one is the Chocolates palette, which this is the color scheme of that palette, and I've used this palette as well. Let's turn it this way. I use this often in the past, is which why I brought it back out, because I like those green tones in there and those golds that are mixed together. So I just wanted to pull this back out. Just fall on the floor. But I was glad to pull this one back out. So now I'm going to open up the Cyanos palette, because I did not open it. I just laid it back down. For you all who have not seen this color scheme, this is this color scheme. I did a 2 eyeshadow look, like I said, with these 2 shadows down here at the bottom, and it was beautiful. I've always used this palette. I've used those 2 colors a lot. I've used this color here a lot. And then mainly those 3 on the corner down here. But I want to dive into more of these other shades that I have not touched in the palette. So I'm looking forward to that as well. The next couple of shadows I took out was the 4 Quads by Juvia's Place. And I took out the silver palette, because I do like silver eyeshadows. I love a good sparkle, and this is what it looks like. Just all silver. You have that 2 mattes and 2 shimmers in that palette. And then I have a video on the Honey Rebel palette. I want to dive into this one again, because I really was impressed with the look I came up with for that palette. Then I have the mints that I took out, which is this nice light tealy, light green color scheme. I think this would be pretty for like a wearable green eyeshadow if you're working or something like that. That's not too deep. And then I took out the Army. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, the Rebel Army, which are these deep green shadows, like a hunter greenish, dark green shadows. So I'm looking forward to using this one as well, because like I said, I've been getting into color here lately. I've been loving it. Now the last 4 palettes I take out, I know it's about 50 palettes. It seemed like I went over about 50 palettes, I don't know. But like I said, I want to dibble and dab in them. I may not use them all, but they caught my eye in my collection, and I wanted to pull them out, because if I don't, I won't, and stick them in my basket so I can kind of use them. But my last 4 palettes are all smaller mini palettes. I bought these 3 from Walmart maybe about a couple of weeks ago when I was in there, which are the 2 black Opal palettes. These little mini palettes here. And this one is the BLK Bombshell, which are green and bronzy type shades. And then you have the Iconic, which are more of the mauve orange type shades. And so let's open them up. This is what this one looks like. And I like these shimmers in here. I haven't used them, but they're really pretty in the pan. I don't know how they're going to perform on my eyes, but they are really pretty in the pan. And then this one is the mauve type, orangish, bronzy type palette, which I can't wait to dive into, because I love like bronzy mauve type shades. So the last palette is the NYX Ultimate Edit palette. I'm trying to see the name of this palette. The Ultimate Utopia palette. And these are the colors in this palette. And I do have the larger palette I have never used, so I'm definitely going to start with the smaller palette. So that is all I picked out to use within the next you know, a couple of weeks or so. Now, like I said, I may dib and dab in other palettes, but I'm definitely going to leave this basket out in front of me so I can definitely start pulling eyeshadow palettes outside of this basket so that I can use the items as much as possible and try not to go into my stash. But who knows? Things change. But I did want to share with you all some items I wanted to pull out of my stash as far as my eyeshadow palettes and use those items. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you want to see more videos like this as I rotate the stash out, I'll post them. And if there's any looks that you want to see, well, not any looks, any eyeshadow palettes that you would like to see me use, then just drop it down in the comment section. And if you have not done so already, please comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys in my next video.